Okay, now don't be mad.
You're listening to the RPM Podcast.
It's not good.
Again, episode 179 of the RPM Podcast. It is July 27th, 2020 at 7:43 p.m. I'm Scott Riggleman, your host of the RPM Podcast down in Manchester, New Jersey. We have my brother Tim Riggleman, America's spotter up in Farmingdale, New Jersey. Tim, how are you?
I'm good. I just washed my hands. I'm ready to go.
We also have Josh Matthews down there in Waretown, New Jersey. Very much like Dover Speedway, he has zero fans as well. We're going to touch base on what's going on down at Dover. They just made an announcement today. Josh, how are you?
Not bad. Did you say you were down in Manchester? I think you're over in Manchester.
From Tim.
Yeah, well, I would recommend Scott is over in Manchester. Tim is up in Farmingdale. I'm down in Waretown.
That's a good idea because you're the studio that makes it happen. So we got to go from the direction you're at. I'm up and over a little bit, and Tim's up even further yet. We'll go with that. All right, guys. This is the podcast we've been waiting for. I mean, Wall Stadium race Saturday, so we're finally going to be able to do a Wall Stadium recap. But before I get to that, we haven't been talking much about NASCAR because there has been so much local stuff going on. By having Larry Spencer on talking about the Pennsylvania stuff, we have plenty of short track stuff to talk about. But this one kind of hits close to home because Josh's family goes down to this race. They've been going down there for many years, and I've been down there many times too as guests as race teams. It's one of the closest Cup races to where we all live here in New Jersey. Unfortunately, Dover had to make the announcement today that they're not going to have any fans in their grandstands at their. I'm not sure when that race is. Josh, is that in August?
Well, I know it used to be June, and I know they shuffled stuff around. I think they had June in October.
Yeah.
But
so
now
it seems like this COVID stuff's not going away. I mean, we're lucky enough to get one race in that wall, but unfortunately, we're even looking at stuff. We have vacation plans for Florida in October, and we have them planned. Really, we kind of planned them at like 3 different places to see where we're going to be able to go, and we're keeping an eye on Disney, and they were supposed to open certain restaurants and hotels back up in August, and they already pushed that off to like November now. So this isn't going away anytime soon. And unfortunately, I know there was a few people in the area that go to Dover every year, like Josh's family, that really, it's an annual trip for people in this area to go to Dover. And unfortunately, it was announced today that they're not going to be able to have fans. And it really made some people upset today on Facebook. I just want to pass that along because I know a lot of our listeners go down there. And if you haven't heard yet, there are no fans for Dover.
Yeah, it's going to be a little rough. I mean, they made the call in the, off of the information that they have, and I'm sure you're not going to please everybody. I think there's going to be a ton of people who'll be like, all right, it sucks, but I understand, and, this is just going to be one of those things that goes down in history.
I mean, I know they have removed some grandstands over the years, but even today, there's so much space down there. Such a big grandstand. You can easily sell 30,000 tickets there and spread everybody out.
Oh,
you know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
Absolutely. And then another thing is Dan Thomas with RC2U. He's usually there as part of the Fan Fest or whatever it's called.
It's got to be killing his little business. I mean, he goes to birthday parties. Nobody's having them right now. He does all the racetracks in the area, and they're not doing stuff like that at racetracks. He also does like county fairs. All the county fairs are canceled. He started that little business, and it got really big on him. And unfortunately, this is really putting a hurt on it.
And another thing, it's funny. We talk about everything shutting down. Oddly enough, I saw Ernie Saxton shared. I don't think I have it up here right now, but they were looking at motorsports for I think January 22nd back at the Greater Philly Expo Center. So
they bravely announced that they're having motorsports again and 5 indoor shows.
Yeah.
But, they're just planning ahead and with hopes that it's going to be okay by then. But that stuff might get canceled as well too. You never know.
Exactly. But that's what I hate for Dan is it's hard to plan anything because he's got to keep it open or he's got to keep that date set for let's say motorsports, and then if it gets canceled, he's like, well, I wasted everything. I couldn't plan around. It's got to be frustrating, and it just like the masks. Yeah, it sucks to have to wear them all the time, but like I think, like I said, a lot of people are going to be, all right, I understand why they did it. They're not doing it because, as a big FU to fans or something like that. They're doing it as, look, based on the information we have, what we have to do, this is going to be a tough decision, but this is what it's going to be this year. And I think, in 20, 30 years, this is going to be something in the history books, the year 2020 and, all the terrible BS that's gone on this year. And
I just thought in the back of my mind, by the time we got to Dover, we could do at least a limited fan base. You know what I'm saying? With that place, how big it is, and it's not really by a major city. You know what I'm saying? I thought they could at least do a 30,000 fan thing there, and unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do that either.
yeah, and especially. Here's a weird thing that actually works in favor of the social distancing and the whole sanitizing all the surfaces. Those old urinal troughs are great because you don't have an individual flush handle for everybody to.
It just keeps running, doesn't it, or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but no, getting back to the reality of it, yeah, you're absolutely right. They had a couple races. Was it Texas that they were?
Texas had 30,000.
Yeah. I think that it would be possible.
I think 30,000 for a cup race is a good number for the social distancing thing because they all hold like 100 to 150. So 30,000 is just a fraction of what it is. And I think even at 30,000 people, the track can make a little bit of money. You know what I'm saying? I just like that 30,000 number for the cup race when it was at Texas. I think it can be safely done and not spreading COVID.
And
the
traffic,
track can make a little bit of money.
Traffic getting that would be great. And you can, and NASCAR's been calling it right sizing. They can call it pandemic sizing. I don't know.
Yeah. And the way they handle it is this, of course, their season ticket holders get first dibs on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, actually, that's a very good.
They probably have 30,000 just in annual pass holders. You know what I'm saying? Ticket holders, season ticket holders. So let those 30,000 season ticket holders come. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, give them first dibs on it, and then even if say it was an older guy or somebody who didn't feel safe, give it to a friend.
Just real quick on the NASCAR thing. I've been so busy with my own little race team and the towing business. I haven't been able to watch much stuff on TV. After a brutally hot day Saturday at Wall Stadium, I had a few things to do Saturday morning. I unloaded the Wall Stadium stuff, brought my fire suit stuff in, washed all my fire suit stuff. I did pull Nancy's dirt car in. Her motor wasn't running right down in Bridgeport, so I went to work on that. What I did is I worked on it Sunday morning before it got too brutally hot, like 10 a.m. start on it.
Yeah.
Well, I was done with everything at 2 o'clock. All my wall stuff was put away. The dirt car was running better now. I fixed that. I unloaded all my tires off the tire rack, bought my fire suits in and all that stuff. 2:30, perfect. I'm on the couch in the air conditioning. Me and Nancy are making lunch. I'm like, great, 3 o'clock, the race is coming on. Let's watch the race. I go on my phone and try to find out when the race is starting. No NASCAR race on Sunday. I don't know why they skipped over Sunday. I mean, I watched the one during the week, and for some reason this Sunday they weren't racing, so I didn't get to watch the Cup race this Sunday.
It's not like there was a holiday.
Yeah, I know. It's just a little break in the action for them, because they've been having all the midweek shows, I guess, but I thought for sure I was going to be able to sit on the couch and watch a NASCAR race, and I wasn't able to. It never seems to work out for me, the TV schedules. Anyway, Wall Stadium did get going. Very thankfully, Wall Stadium opened back up. I'm going to start right from the beginning. Pit gates opened at 1. I showed up at like 1:30. There was a pretty long line at the ticket booth, but unlike Bethel, when we talked about Bethel a couple of episodes ago, They let us pull in the pits at least. You hand the security guard your driver's license, you pull in, you park your stuff, you walk back out and wait in line. What they were doing at Wall Stadium is when you were in line, they had Nick Ballard, Sam Ballard's brother, head security guard over there. He had the temperature thing, and he would walk down pit, the ticket booth line and take everybody's temperature and make sure you're okay. But because the heat was so high, he had a few people that were 104, 105. And he's like, what do I do now? We're like, I don't know, let them go sit in the shade for a little while and then recheck them. You know what I'm saying? Because, we're standing out here. It's 100 degrees, you're going to get hot. You're hotter than what you should be. And plus the gauge, he's checking people's temperature. He's got it in his hand. It's been in the sun all day,
Mm-hmm.
So he did say he had one guy hit like 110 degrees, and he just sent that guy home. But he said if you're if you're like 103, 104, of course it's not that accurate. So he was making the people go sit in the shade for a little bit, cool off a little bit, and then he would check them again. And then, even me, every time I go into like a barber shop or anywhere they're checking your temperature, I'm always like 97, 98. Even me in that heat, I was like 100. It was 100 out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're going to be 100,
And,
so
and it's not like there's like you said, there's limited shade.
Yeah. And the line was long to get in. They only had one girl selling tickets, and you had to sign a form, a COVID form. Yep. So it was taking a little longer. So, yeah, you're literally standing there for half hour, 45 minutes waiting to get your pit ticket. So you're in the sun. You're going to show hotter, So that was a little tricky part of the day, But we all got in the pits, so they were checking. You did have to wear a mask if you were any place other than your own pit area. Obviously, in my pit area, me, Nancy, and the guy George that helps me, we didn't have to wear it. But as soon as you walked out of the pits, you had to put a mask on.
Okay.
And the security was not rude about it. If they did see someone without a mask, they just say, "Hey, man, just put it on. We got to do it, or we're going to get shut down." It wasn't a Wall Stadium rule; it was a government rule.
Exactly. And then I'm assuming the state police are probably there just because.
You know what? I didn't notice any presence from state police or anybody from Wall Township. I could be wrong. I'm there with 2 race cars. I'm busy. I'm not really paying attention to that. But out of the corner of my eye or walking around, I never saw a presence of anybody from the township or the state or anything like that. But they couldn't be there. I'm not really sure,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they were there because of the situation and the first night, and because they'll go around and they do the extra. They'll just randomly check people's belts and stuff like that on occasion. So I wouldn't be surprised for the opening night to have them walking around and checking.
For opening night, everything went smooth. It was really, it's so weird. We haven't been there since Turkey Derby, which is about 7 or 8 months ago.
Jeez.
And I swear when we were there, it felt like we were there yesterday. Like nothing changed. I'm back in my same pit spots, the same race cars, and I'm parked next to the Martinos, who I parked to next last year. Elliot Wall's right across the way from me. The Okersons are only a couple feet away from me. He's like, we never left,
Well, another thing
same
that
photographers walking around talking to you, same guy selling programs, it's like we never left,
I was going to say another thing that did not change was the Sportsman taking out the guardrail.
We're getting there, Josh. Hold on. We're getting ahead of the game here. Let's give it a minute here.
I'm sorry. I'm anxious to.
Here. I know you're anxious about this. And when it happened, I thought of you the very first. And I know you said you couldn't make it because you had some chores to do around your in-laws' house. But I was going to message you, be like, Josh, we never skip the beat here. It's the same old place, But anyway, I don't want to get to that just yet. I want to do it in order here. When we did get there, they did it. This is the first time I've seen this in a while. They had a paid practice from 1 to 3. So you could have paid extra in practice from 1 to 3. Of course, I didn't participate in that because I knew we would have enough practice from 3 to 5, But it was good for the rookies. It was good for people that built brand new cars. They got to shake it down a little bit before regular practice started. So regular practice started at 3 o'clock. I got over around 5 o'clock, and then they had a driver's meeting. I wanted to talk about the driver's meeting a little bit. Everybody had to wear their mask at driver's meeting, and some new staff was introduced, and some new stuff going on at Wall Stadium was introduced. There was really 3 things they announced. 2 things with race officials. Alan Brenner is no longer there as a pit steward, which I liked Alan. I think Alan did a great job. He was very dedicated.
I was shocked when I heard that Alan got
let
go. He's great. He's good on Sundays. He's excellent. And being a spotter, I listen to the scanner, race control, and I've never heard a problem with him. So,
well, for me, he was always somebody that I was comfortable going to at least talk to. Not that he was unfair, or took me in as a favorite, but you could. Hey, I just want to, take a couple seconds and talk and, about something or an issue or whatever. And he seemed, where, I don't know, I have social anxiety and stuff. So a new person is always weird for me, but I got used to him.
So Alan is not there anymore. He was replaced by a guy named Jeff Tice. Jeff's been around racing forever too. He worked at Tilton Auto Body for a long time. He lives over in Jackson, not far from Dick Barney. That's kind of how I know him. He also lives across the street. He used to live across the street from Tommy Cottrell. So I used to go to Tommy Cottrell's, and Jeff was right across the street. Jeff's a huge Tony Stewart fan. That's also a way I always known him. We always wore some type of Tony Stewart stuff. He's been around racing forever. I think he was even an official over at New Egypt Speedway for a while. I think he's even worked that wall before, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So he just stepped in where Alan stepped out, and basically, he held the driver's meeting. He's the one that read us to New Jersey state rules, like 5 miles an hour through the pits and all stuff like that. Yeah, but you're right. I'm going to miss Alan too. I think Alan did a great job over there. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but he was dedicated. He was there every Saturday. He was there early. He always dressed very presentable, always had his Wall Stadium shirt on, khaki pants on, never hid from anybody. Always, even when he was getting yelled at, he would stand there and try to answer your questions as best he could. I'm going to miss Alan a little bit too.
Another thing had to talk about Alan is for years when he wasn't at Wall, he was at Englishtown working there.
He loves racing. Yeah, he loves it.
Exactly.
Not only did he race, he had beautiful race cars back in the day, Josh. Back in the 80s when the modern stocks were really, really cool cars, Alan had the nicest one out there. And you're right. If he wasn't at Wall Stadium on a Saturday night, he was at Englishtown on a Sunday, Mm-hmm. Plus he helps my brother with the Sunday series over there. And he's still doing the Sunday series from what I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, Alan's a true racer. He was a photographer for a while too at the racetrack.
Yeah, Atlantic City. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to miss Alan a little bit. I'm kind of disappointed he's gone, but I'm sure we'll see him around still. Walk in the booth to sign in, and there's a new friendly face in there too. New and old, kind of like she did it a few years ago. Derek Hopkins' mother's back, Laura.
Oh,
she's back she's back doing the handicap, and so it was nice to see her in there and dealing with her again. She's real good at it. She did it all through when Derek was racing quarter midgets, and she did it for Wall for a few years too, and then she stopped doing it for a while, and then they got her back doing it again. So it was great to see her back in the booth. Real nice lady, real smart lady. Knows racing, knows everybody in racing. No, she was actually doing double duty in the trailer, Josh. Not only was she signing the race car drivers in, but she's still selling the welding insurance. So now you got to go. So when you sign in, you bring your $10 with you, and you pay for your welding insurance too. So she works hard at the racetrack. She really does. She hustles when she's there. So yeah, Laura Hopkins is back, and that's Derek's mom. So I welcome her back. It was great to see her in there and getting her old job back, and she does a great job. She really does.
Oh yeah, she's super friendly, and she'll joke with you and everything. So again, it's just people that make you feel like you're at home with that track. Yeah. So continue.
The next announcement was made. The race director, which was Mike Ostrander last year, that's changing too. Mike's no longer part of the Wall Stadium staff. He is being replaced by Dave Michael, former RPM podcast show. We did a show on him with the Racing Legend series we did. Dave actually took over the race director role. He was a little shy at the driver's meeting, though. They introduced him, but he never came out of the trailer. He never said anything. And I tell you what, if they didn't announce it, and if I didn't hear it through the grapevine that he was a race director, I would have never known he was the race director, because from a racer's point of view, I never had any dealings with him with the night. And when I was down on the track, he wasn't on the receiver. It's our buddy Eric Graham. Eric Graham's still doing the receiver part. Dave Michaels is making the calls, and then Eric Graham relays it to the track,
Now, actually, I want to interrupt for just a second, because we talked about Eric Graham, I think, in the last show, and saying, how he, we appreciate what he does and think he's, obviously qualified. And he said, I appreciate you guys speaking kindly of me, but I don't hate myself enough to race direct at Wall. He said that running a 400 entry, as in the entry list would be 400 cars, race at Daytona is easier. So it's a tough job.
He's kind of doing it anyway, because to tell you the truth, when I'm sitting in the race car, even if Dave Michael makes the call that I spun somebody, I go to the rear, Eric's the one that tells me in my ears. So in my head, Eric made the call, so I'm going to yell at Eric. You know what I'm saying? But I think Eric does a great job over there. I really like his I don't know the word for it, but I really like the way he sounds in the radio.
It's the attitude and the demeanor.
The demeanor. That was the exact word. The demeanor. Yeah. He's the way he speaks. He raises his voice when he has to, but he doesn't raise his voice to the point where you can't understand what he's saying. Some people get so mad and excited and yelling and screaming, you can't get the message.
I'm going to say it. Warren was one of the people that yelled on the radio a lot, and I was like, "Whoa!" And now I can barely understand you. Like Eric's. even if he's kind of annoyed, he's calm enough that you can understand him, and then you actually almost feel guilty.
Right. Eric is very understandable on the receiver. And the receiver is tough to be understandable on, too, because it's not the best piece of equipment in the world,
Right.
It's for people that don't know what we're talking about, the receiver is basically a scanner, but like the size of an old beeper when we used to carry a beeper around with you, and it runs on one AAA battery. It's not the best piece of equipment in the world,
I was going to say, it's the biggest piece of garbage you're going to buy for your race car.
Right.
I love mine. Mine is set on that channel. I turn it on, and it works. I've had no issues.
That's because that's the only thing on your race car that does work.
But yeah,
I earned that.
Eric does a great job, so I'm glad he's back. He's working with Dave Michael in the tower. I also heard, but there was no official announcement, but I also heard Jason Hearn was up there just as a second pair of eyes for Dave Michael. No, like, big job title or anything like that. He was just up there assisting Dave Michael, but Dave Michael is the boss this year, which is good. I mean, we've had Dave on the show. How smart was he about racing? He sees it from all angles like we do. It's real good him getting back involved in Wall. He's been in racing longer than any of us. I think Dave Michael is a very solid choice for a race director.
With one weekend, so far so good. But I agree with what you're saying. I think he's old school too. He was there when you got 3 taps to the back bumper before you got spun out. You know what I mean? He knows the way Wall Stadium should be raced. You can't go to Wall Stadium and race and not touch anybody. It's just he understands that. He's been through it, and
the tour race proved that.
And I think he'll do a good job. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind, and hopefully it goes good from there.
The only thing I'm waiting to see how Dave does, and I'm not putting Dave down at all, but he is a modified guy. I mean, true-heartedly a modified guy. I just hope he's not one of those guys that pays more attention to the modifieds than Sportsman, because that's the type of car he loves, and kind of like turns turns his back a little bit on the factory stocks and maybe the late models. I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying he's going to do it. I know he's a modified guy and he loves modifieds, and I don't know what he knows about factory stock racing, you know?
Well, I know, like when Larry Reed had come back and done it for a couple of years, and he was pretty good, but there were a number of times that he would essentially just, he could leave the tower when the factory stocks came out, and then Eric Graham would kind of handle it because he knew the guys, and the factory stocks are generally self-policing.
And to tell you the truth, if I was the race director, I would call the factory stock race a little bit different than I do the modifieds.
Yeah.
Bony, I would do like lazy yellows, not like modifieds, because they're so fast or open wheeled. You got to throw the yellow right away. If there's a little bit of moisture on the track, you got to throw the yellow. If there's a car spun in the far corner, you got to throw the yellow quicker. If they're closer to the racetrack, they got to throw the yellow, because the modifieds are just so fast. With the factory stocks, you can be a little bit lazy with the yellow. If there's a little bit of sand on the track, who cares? If there's if there's a car spun and we're on the front straightaway and they're in the back straightaway, you got a little more time to let the guy try to correct himself and get moving, So, yeah, you can call the race a little bit differently than that.
But don't be so lax that you let the factory stocks almost wreck.
Yeah, but don't let it turn into a demolition derby where people are wrecking each other on every lap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't hear much talking. We went caution free, Josh. So I didn't hear much talking on the radio. So I didn't really get a feel of how David's calling that race, because really nothing crazy happened in our race. It was a pretty good race.
Okay.
So you didn't have to make any decision calls in that race. So I haven't really experienced Dave Michael's race directing skills yet, but I'm sure I will. But,
I think the first move will be, and I will applaud him and worship him if he starts putting the Sportsman last.
Right. Well,
because
there's still one more big announcement at the drivers' meeting before we move on to the racing.
I had my Skinner on the whole night, Scott. It was never something I didn't disagree with what he did. So
okay. Did you ever hear him speak on the radio at all, or was it always Eric?
It was always Eric.
It was always Eric? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
One more.
The real big announcement at the drivers' meeting was there was a new general manager of Wall Stadium. This rumor was going around for a while, and I heard through the grapevine as well. This year, Diane Krause has stepped down a little bit, or moved over a little bit, and she's letting her daughter, Emily, take the general manager role at the racetrack. And I tell you what, Emily came out of the drivers' meeting, and she gave a nice little speech. and she stood in front of us all. And she basically thanked us all for being there. And she said that she was helping her mom out more this year, and she took over the general manager role. Her mom's more just doing the tires and the concession stands like that. And Emily's going to do more day-to-day stuff this way. If her mom wants to take a weekend off, she can. And Emily's going to run the show, and she's pretty much the boss now over at Wall Stadium. And she couldn't have been any nicer to us at the drivers' meeting. She thanked us for coming to the racetrack under very difficult situations and a difficult time in the economy and all that stuff. And she even made a few jokes and got everybody laughing. And she basically said, listen, I know the mask things is not fun. It's not pleasant. It's not I know you guys don't want to wear them here in 100-degree weather, but please do, because if we don't, someone can report us and shut us down and we have nothing. So just to make the government and the town officials happy, please wear them. And if you see one of our security guards asking you to put it on, just remember, it's not Wall Stadium yelling at us. We're doing it to keep it open. You know, we're playing their game to keep them happy. And then she did end the little speech at the meeting. She said, listen, I know a lot of you guys come here and race, you have fun, and then when racing's over, you all enjoy going somewhere. She's like, I do too. I'm a Pete and Elda's person. I like going to Pete and Elda's. A lot of you go to Pete and Elda's, Woody's, the Arc, wherever you guys go after races. They're all closing at 10 o'clock. So I know you guys aren't able to do that part of your fun night, but because you're not able to go there, I'm going to leave the pits open for 2 hours after the races. I'll leave the lights on for 2 hours when the races are complete.
Wow.
Because I'm here for 2 hours after the races anyway, finishing stuff up and paying everybody and stuff like that. We can have a big pizza party here and a big beer party right here. She's like, but the only thing is, I'm not supplying the beer and pizza. So she's like, you're all more than welcome to hang out here for as long as you want after the races. If you guys want to bring food and beer and stuff for after the races and hang out in the pits after the races, you're more than welcome to.
Now, is that a weekly?
That really nice.
Is that going to be a continuing thing?
Yeah, until things get normal. You know,
okay.
When bars start opening up later and stuff like that.
Some of the bigger sponsors could help with that. You know, throws this.
Well, I know that it costs.
Here's the only bad thing about it. It didn't work. Well, number one, it was a late night. It really was. Yeah. The night ran late. It was hot out. Trust me, when everybody was done racing, everybody packed up and got out of there. The only thing that won't make her little plan work, which kind of sucks, and it kind of ruins the night for me a little bit, they weren't because of the COVID, social distancing things, they weren't allowing grandstands, the people from the grandstands to come in the pits after the races.
Okay, yeah, I understand why, but yeah, that does hurt things. And I will say that's an incredible gesture, though, to leave the lights on, because it does. What I heard was it costs like $175 an hour to keep those lights on with power consumption.
And it also showed me a different side of Emily, where she's thinking outside the box. That might have been something her mom wouldn't have done. She's thinking outside the box a little bit, and she's thinking as a racer what we do the whole day on Saturday. It's not just racing. It's a whole day for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for her to think outside the box like that, I thought that was a really cool idea. Another thing she did that was really cool, and it really worked out very well, and I hope they even stick to it after COVID's gone, is payouts, Josh. The payouts, what they did, they didn't want everybody up in the office, so they, the ticket booth out front by the main grandstand, they set the payout up there. So you didn't have to go up the stairs into the office. I just pulled into the parking lot. Now you don't have to jam that road all up. You know what I'm saying? I just pulled into the parking lot, walked across that guardrail, and there was a young girl in there, like a high school year-old girl, and she was sitting in there with Greg, the security guard, and she had the payout sheet right there. You just signed your name, and she paid you right there, and you were gone. That worked out great.
That's awesome, and it's a dedicated thing.
I think that's something, and that was all Emily's idea. Something she came up with, and I hope she sticks with it forever. It's so much better than walking up them steps and going into that office where everybody's huddled in and everybody's arguing about what happened.
Yeah, no. So, if you have a problem, you need to talk to somebody about it. Then you go up into the office. But otherwise, if you're just looking for your money, now somebody's just there to give you the money, and that's
the only other thing I think they should do was kind of weird. Maybe they'll think it's being an afterthought is. They should let the people return their transponders down there too.
Okay.
Because there was people going to get their payout, but they still had to go upstairs and return their transponders. Where I don't have to worry. I have my own transponder, so it didn't really affect me. But I seen some people standing there with their transponders and like, "Do you give them to you here?" Like, no, you still got to return them upstairs. So those people still had to go upstairs.
Okay. But I mean, it sounds like
a little thing in that ticket booth too, and you can get your driver's license back and return your transponder right there, so nobody has to go up into the office.
No, that makes sense. But I am glad to hear because Emily's been always nothing but kind in my encounters with her, and I I think that she's one of those people that's I guess the saying is fair but firm,
Yeah.
and so she'll stick to it.
I'm telling you what, it's the most happy I seen her at that racetrack in the last couple of years. She did a great job. She did a phenomenal job as her first night as general manager.
She's
of the
smart.
racetrack.
She's very smart, and I'm with you, Scott. If that's how it went, then absolutely, I hope she sticks with it and stays. I mean, and it's kind of an otherwise thankless job, but we're gonna try to extend our thanks.
All right, so let's move on to the racing. Like I said, we haven't been there in 8 months. They get the lineups going. I think the
Yeah,
modifieds
we're only 34 minutes in, Scott. So let's get to the racing.
All right. So the modifieds have time trials. So real technically, the first racing of the night is Sportsman heat races. We haven't been there in 8 months, but it feels like we were there yesterday because they go down into the first turn. 2 of them go straight into the wall, knock the wall down. We have a 45-minute delay to fix the fence.
I'll just put the light on. There we go.
Yeah, all I can think about was Josh. I even had a few people walk by and say, "Man, Josh is going to kill the Sportsman division on the RPM podcast this week."
I'm sorry, but that kind of earns it. I mean, they didn't miss a beat. They went right to what I don't know. It was funny. I actually I had a memory. I think it came up today or yesterday. It said new rules for the Sportsman starting next week that they have to have DOT tires, fenders, and a time limit or something like that.
I like the idea of the Sportsman division, but because they're so even, you have to be aggressive, and I think it causes accidents.
Yeah, but
go ahead, Tim.
First, there wasn't very many of them to begin with, right? There was only like
everybody qualified. There was no sense of killing each other in a heat race.
They either put if they want to still run. I understand that they want to run heat races because it's a beginner's division. It gives them more track time. I understand that. So if they want to run them in heat races, run them the last heat races of the night, because then people can start their intermission early if they want to. You know what I mean? Say like if you want to run and go get a beer, or you want to go down to into Farmingdale and get a piece of pizza. You can watch the modifieds qualify. You can watch the factory stacks qualify. And if you don't want to watch them, Josh will take you down to Farmingdale and get you something to drink. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're going to sit there and wait for the radio broadcast saying that they fixed the fence, and then we'll head back. But
that's one thing. Or that, or just do time trials with them, or pick out of a hat every week.
So anyway, they repair the fence. They go back racing. They get through the next few heat races, and it went smooth through the Sportsman. So the Sportsman qualifying gets over with. Now the factory stocks roll down on the track, and I'm in factory stock heat number 1. I start third or something like that, and I'm cruising around in second place. Next thing I know, the red flag comes out. I look in the corner. There's oil all over the racetrack, and there's 2 race cars up in the fence. Unfortunately, our friend Kevin Flores, former guest on the RPM podcast, his motor just hand grenaded going down the back straight. Broke. I mean, I haven't seen a hole in an oil pan that big in a very, very long time. And every drip of oil came out of that motor. So here we are, only into the second set of heat races, and another 45-minute delay. It took forever to get all that oil off the track. Track crew did a great job because when we went back green, the track surface was awesome, but they had a lot of oil to clean up, and it took forever. So, I mean, here we are, first night of the year. We're already an hour and a half behind schedule, and qualifying's not even over with,
Well, I mean, I'd say that's almost on par. Actually, now I want to say one other thing real quick. I think another issue that comes up with the Sportsman, and I'm just being honest here. I'm not trying to hate on them, but I think a lot of people jump into Sportsman almost as an entry level. They treat it like an entry level because they want to get to modifieds. They're like, oh, I have to start in Sportsman, go to mod. They don't. A lot of people don't race in the factory stocks or the 4-cylinders or something else to get more of the experience and the.
Yeah, a lot of people that choose factory stock as their division, they just choose that to be their division forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta understand too. A modified is a lot easier to work on. You can buy everything out of a catalog. You can just bolt it on. Where a 4-cylinder mainly. And what Scott drives, you have to be a mechanic too to work on those. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of these people that have a little bit of extra money, they don't want to be bothered with that. They want to just get into a car where they can call up somebody and order the part and bolt
when I
it
had
on.
a modified, I spent less time in the shop because I can get all the maintenance done on that race car in like 2 hours, where it takes longer on the factory stock, because it's like working on a factory stock's like working on a real race car. And I even changed my spark plugs during the day at the track, and it took a while because it's like changing spark plugs on a real car. I mean, I got stock exhaust manifolds on there, so you gotta get your hand underneath that stock exhaust manifold and find the spark plug. I even run those little tin stock heat shields.
Yep.
So it makes it tight to get in there. Where I'm modified, the spark plugs are in the wide open. You pull them right out, put them right back in.
But yeah,
Just a quick
they're
story
way
on me.
easier to work on, and I agree, and that's very appealing to a lot of people, especially people that have the means to go right into that. But I think a lot of people don't learn the race etiquette that other divisions have and learn, or that comes from going in a lower
I don't
division.
even really blame it on the inexperienced drivers or driver, because there's some drivers with great experience in that division and they still have problems. I just blame it on the evenness of the cars. I really do. They're so even that you gotta bang, and if there's a half a hole there, you gotta go for it. It's the only way you're gonna pass somebody, and you really only have a shot on the restarts, and that's why they kill each other on the restarts, because it's your opportunity to gain a spot or lose a spot. And once they get freight trained together, you're not passing each other unless you're running into the back of them.
Yeah,
I agree.
Josh, just
it
a
makes
quick
sense.
story. I know we're getting long. I just
No,
want
it's
to
fine. It's fine.
I wanted to explain how hot it was over there. I had to change the spark plugs in my car. I was messing with timing because the motor just seemed flat to me. I was trying to wake it up a little bit. I'm sure it felt flat because it was just so hot out. Everybody's cars were a little bit down on horsepower, but I was trying to get an edge. I was trying to make mine a little bit better, and I did. I got it a little bit better by changing the timing and changing the different spark plug. I went to a hotter plug and stuff like that. This is how hot it was at Wall Stadium Saturday. I went out one practice. My car was lagging. I said, I'm going to change spark plugs, take a little timing at it, see if I can get it a little bit better. I would change one spark plug, one at a time. I would pull the boot off, take the plug out, set the gap in the new plug, spin it in, put the boot back on it, go sit in my truck in the air conditioner for 5 minutes, cool off. Come out of my truck, dump a bottle of water over my head, change one more spark plug. By the time I was changing that next spark plug, my shirt was dry and my hair was dry that I dumped the bottle of water over. I go sit back in my truck for 5 minutes, cool off, come back out and change spark. It took me an hour to change 8 spark plugs just because it was so hot out.
Oh yeah, I agree. It was miserable and fairly humid too. Which I mean,
It was bad.
yeah.
I think that's probably other than this one. Tim knows this. New Hampshire used to have an August race, and everybody thinks because you're in New Hampshire, it's nice and cool up there. But there were day races. Other than one August day in New Hampshire, I think this was the hottest I was ever at a racetrack. Was Saturday.
I can believe. And Scott, I think you said off the air prior to the show that normally, if this was a normal year and a normal season,
Yeah, if this was our 12th race into the year, most likely this race would have been canceled.
Yeah, canceled. Yeah.
Diane has done in the past, but because since we've been waiting for this race and the COVID stuff, we just toughed it out and raced.
You got to remember, this is the point of time, the year when Scott will call me with like, man, if I wasn't running for points, I wouldn't even go tonight. But here it is. Everybody thinks it's the first night. It's not the first night. It's really the middle of the season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is also the nights too when we did race, we'd have 15 cars instead of 25. Because, like Tim said, if you weren't in the top 12 or 13 of points, you're like, you know what? I'm going out on my friend's boat. I'm sitting home in the air. But the car, we didn't even touch on that. The car counts were great. They were good. We had 25 factory stocks. The modifieds had a full field.
That's 17.
Had more than I thought we're going to be. The struggling late models only had 5, but other than that, we had great car counts too Saturday night.
Oh, I did want to ask before we move on. Did they have that big swamp cooler out?
No, I haven't seen that in a while. Maybe that broke on them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Diane wasn't walking around handing her ice pops out or nothing like that.
Oh no, that's something I miss. She was always so kind with that. I love.
But I tell you what, every time you walk by someone's trailer, like, hey, if you want a water, there's water in the cooler. Me too. If you came over my pit, I offered you water. Everybody had coolers and coolers filled with water, man. Ice, stuff like that. I'm lucky enough to park next to Tom Martino and Tom Martino Jr. They have an air conditioner in their enclosed trailer, so I at least
How's
got
bragging
changed.
camp going?
In and out, I would at least get out of my fire suit after qualifying. I took my fire suit back off. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't stay in my fire suit all day. I had my tow truck there. I could sit in the air conditioned tow truck too. You know. All right, let's get on to the racing. So all the qualifying's done and over with. I think they started with the legend cars. I forget the order of events. I actually took a picture of it. Let me pull that up real quick.
Okay.
What they did though, which was very cool too, they real brief intermission. I mean, maybe 5-10 minutes. Like they knew they were behind schedule because of the wreck, and then
that's like the one gap they have to make that they can make up.
To tell you the truth, I don't think there was an intermission. I know qualifying was done. I put my 4 sticker tires on, my 4 bank tires for the feature. By the time I got them changed, I think the legend cars were already lining up. You know.
Did they happen to have like a porta-john or something down in the infield for the track crew or anything?
I'm not sure. That'd be a good idea, but I don't think they do. Those guys can pop up whenever they want in between races, you know, as long as there's someone down there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm just saying that might make some of the intermission fast. I know they got to come up and they try to make sure that those guys get a chance to eat something or something else to drink. And yeah, I'm just saying because, I mean,
they did have an intermission, Josh, but it was brief. It was a quick one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. You're pulling that up. I'm sorry.
All right. Let's see here. National Anthem, 7 p.m. I'm sure we're past that. The Legend cars were the first feature, and they went surprisingly quick. These are the Legend cars have some problems too. I think I'm not sure because I was working on my car. I think their feature went off pretty quick, but I could be wrong. And then the very popular Sportsman division, they came out next. The brothers, the John Tommaso kids,
yep,
they had them covered. First and second, they were gone, Josh. They were hauling the mail. They were pulling away. It was going to be a great night for that family. It was going to be a 1-2 finish. Unfortunately, the one brother that was leading the race, once again, going into turn 3, his engine blows up, covers the track and oil. Not only does it cover the track and oil, it took out like 3 other cars with him, and the other one being the brother. So I felt bad for Charlie D. He's a great guy. He's been around racing forever. He puts a lot of money and effort into his racing program for his kids. He shows up with 2 beautiful sportsmen. They're always top-notch, prepared very well, very fast race cars. Not only did he blow a motor up in his one son's car while leading the race, slid in his own oil and wreck. Not only did he wreck the car and blow the motor up in that car, his brother was right behind him. He slid in the same oil and wrecked too. So Charlie was left there with 1 blown engine and 2 wrecked race cars.
When it rains, it pours.
When it rains, it pours. And he went from, I'm sure he was sitting, Josh, they were gone. They had him covered. And I know he was sitting in the grandstand. This is going to be a beautiful night. He probably was already picturing himself in victory lane with his family, you know. He changed it that quick, man. That's why racing's a tough sport. So once again, we got another oil down in the Sportsman race and another cracked fence. So another 45-minute delay cleaning it up.
Wow.
So after that, the race did get going again. Eric Lane, man, he was one of the guys that was smart enough to see that there was oil on the track. I don't know if it was a spotter call. Maybe Tim would know better. Probably a spotter did see it happen that quick. And Eric was just far enough behind where he had time to get on the flat. He got down on the flat and out of the oil and didn't wreck. So when they relined up, he was on the pole and he was able to hold him off for the rest of the race. And Eric Lane won opening night in the sports division in a very impressive fashion.
Yeah, and that's good to see. I'm obviously very happy for him. And you know, because he had that hand injury going back from the one Turkey Derby thing. I mean, he's been through a fair amount. They redid the car. It looks gorgeous. I mean, I like.
Do you want to do the results now, Josh, while we're doing them? Or do you want to do them all in the end?
No. After we finish talking about each division, we'll go right to it. But so great job for Eric Lane, and of course we enjoy the company, the Lane family, because they usually when there's not a pandemic have the party at the Daytona 500 party at
the Lane Racing family is very good friends of the RPM podcast, so we're glad to see them win.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see that. I think we might have shared it on the podcast page. If we didn't, I'll have to do that. So he got the win. Robert Sutphin with a second-place finish there. Jonathan Lorre. Actually, that's a very good finish for him up in third because he's been running for a while with the Sportsman.
And Jonathan was the one that knocked the fence down in the heat race. So him and his father made repairs on a very hot night and got that car back in tip-top condition and running very well for the future. So I applaud them. They worked very hard to get that car fixed. And they are mechanics by trade. They own a repair business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they have all great tools and they know how to work on cars. But I'm telling you, that car was tore up. And I'm like, I feel so bad for them. You wreck on opening night in your heat race. But they were able to repair the car, and it looked like it was never wrecked. I mean, I was sure it cost some money on spare parts and stuff like that. But he came back out in the feature like he never skipped a beat. They really did a good job getting that car repaired.
Yeah, it must have hit it just right that it didn't tweak anything, or it tweaked it in the right direction.
And just so you guys know, he wasn't in his familiar number 74 car. He was actually driving the Skip Lukowitz number 9, the Raceworks car, Tim, that Shauna drove, the last model that Shauna drove. They actually put a crate motor in that, and Sportsman set up on that car, and that's the car Jonathan was driving Saturday night.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Cool. Good for him. Then following him was Jake Nelke in fourth, Neil Rutt the third. In fifth, Rob Anderton, Thomas Stanionis, Jimmy Walcott, Sal Ligori, and Kenny Reeves. And then, I'll just finish up. Rob Schultz was in 11th. And then Jarrett D. Giantomaso and Karsten D. Giantomaso, who we mentioned earlier, in 12th and 13th.
Do you just want to give the top 5 of the legend cars real quick? Because we skipped over those guys.
Yeah, Daniel Carter out of New York gets the win. Kevin Nowak in second. Peter Bruno, Brian Gardella, and Quinn Trimmer. Actually, there's a lot of names that I'm not as familiar with here, other than Roger.
That's the cool thing about the legend cars. I mean, if there's no racing in Virginia, those guys might scoot up here. You know, the rules are all the same, so you can have anybody show up on any time of the year from anywhere in the country. You just never know who's going to show up when you open the gates for a legend car.
That is a nice thing about having basically a spec that carries across, and it doesn't matter what track you go to. You just got to figure out what tires you got to put on, and maybe the gear.
And you mentioned the tires, and I'm not real good with the legend cars. I don't pay much attention to them, but I do like that they have the same rules all over the country. Maybe Roger Nickerson give us a hand with this. I did see cars with both tires on it. INEX legend cars switched to Hoosier tires this year, Josh, and not the BF Goodrich DOTs.
Okay.
But I did see a couple cars with the DOTs on it, and I seen cars with the Hoosier tires on. So I don't know if they're letting them run both right now or what the story is with that.
My best guess, without knowing it, would be that they, just like with the factory stocks, they let you use what you already had.
For like 5 weeks, they kind of phase them in, you think?
Yeah, because they know people probably invested in buying, a little bit of a stockpile of tires.
If any of you legend car guys are listening, maybe shoot the RPM podcast Facebook a message. I'm kind of wondering how this Hoosier tire deal is working. Just let us know what the rule is, if you can run the DOTs and the Hoosiers, and which tire do you think is faster or better? Do you think the Hoosier is the best way to go, or do you wish they stayed on?
Also, what are they running for the dirt for the Legends? Because is that still a Hoosier but a grooved, or do they go to like American Racers or something like that?
Yeah, shoot a message to one of you legend car guys and let us know. That'd be cool. All right, then we moved on to the limited late model race. It was something I haven't seen in a very long time. It was one of those races where nobody wanted to win it. There was 5 cars. Steve Calisi, he just moved up from the Sunday Series to a late model, and he has one of the Roosters' old cars, one of the number 60s.
Okay.
And his father fixed it up. It's now the number 43. He's never been on the big track before, and he was running very well. Unfortunately, he had a panel bar break, and he had to pull off. So now we're down to 4 cars. And I tell you what, for a 4-car field, it was one of the best races I ever seen.
Yeah.
They were side by side, the whole pack of 4, mixing it up. Then one guy got a flat, one guy spun, one guy ripped his bumper cover off, the other guy ripped his Nerf bar off. They would let him go in the pits and try to fix them because they needed cars to finish the race, and they just kept running into each other. And finally, there was one car left, and it was Chris Silvestri. He was the number 74, former champion, a defending champion, I should say. He ended up getting a win. They called the race short because there was only one car left.
Yeah. You don't see it very often, but yeah.
I'll tell you what, Josh, I'm thinking about taking one of my dirt enduro cars and throwing late model tires on it and going out there and see how I can run with them.
That honestly, that's kind of what Felber did with the what was it, the Outlaw stocks at Turkey Derby. Just throw keep the dirt tires on, and maybe switch to headers or something. But yeah, other than that,
there's a few noticeable cars missing from the late model division.
Monjo.
None of the Vanderveens were there.
Okay.
I was very surprising because they usually show up with 3 cars. The father, the son, and the daughter both race. Michelle Mormon and Jimmy Mormon and Bill Vanderveen. Even though they have different last names, it's father and son. Hey, Josh, do you know why Michelle Mormon has a different name than Bill Vanderveen?
I'm assuming they kept their mother's name.
Do you know why they kept their mother's name?
I don't know why.
I always thought this was an interesting story. Michelle can correct me if I'm wrong. I always heard the reason why Bill Vanderveen and his wife were together when they had the kids, but when Jimmy Mormon was born, which could have been Jimmy Vanderveen was born, the Mormon family was out of males. Like the Mormon name could have ceased to exist because there was nobody left to carry it on, where there was plenty of male Vanderveen still alive. So what they did was give their kids the Mormon last name to carry the name on.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I had a very small fling with Michelle Mormon's sister, Melissa, and that's going back, God, over 15 years, probably close to 20 years.
It's just a story I was heard. I thought that was pretty interesting, because you don't realize it, but a family name can run out sooner or later, if they stop having males,
Yeah, exactly.
So what's that situation? I thought what the Vanderveens and the Mormons did was pretty smart to keep the name going. But a little side note, and I could be wrong too.
We ain't helping that out, Eddie.
What's that?
You and me ain't helping that out, Eddie. I got 3 daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but we got Sammy Riggleman out there in Pennsylvania. He's got a ton of kids. He's keeping the Riggleman.
Yeah, I can guarantee nobody's going to forget the Riggleman name, even if it doesn't continue on as far. It will definitely be remembered. That's for sure. And now there's many hours of YouTube video of Rigglemans.
So hit us with the late models top 5 because that's all we had.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Silvestri gets the win. Greg Gastelou, Mike Tillett, Buddy Miller, and Stephen Puglisi.
And by the way, Buddy Miller showed up with a beautiful late model. Man, it was one of the nicest late models I've seen in a long time.
So was he? Tell me he was the one that got the flat or something dumb. Tell me he didn't get destroyed.
Josh, he ran into the leader when they were getting ready to take the green. He just ran right in the back of him before they got the green, and he ripped his nose piece off. And Josh, you gotta, if they ever put a video up of it, it was very comical. That race was very comical. But Buddy Miller showed up with a beautiful late model, and I think once he gets used to driving it, he's going to be the force to beat over there with that car.
So did they play that? Tell me they played like the Benny Hill theme over the PA or something?
Benny Hill theme, but when they finally threw the checker flag, it was the biggest applause I ever heard from those grandstands. The whole place cheered that the race was finally over with. Because like I said, the officials were giving these guys time in the pits. There was literally a time where there was nobody on the track, Josh, and they were waiting for someone to come back out and win this race, So they were giving them time to fix their cars to come back out. You know what I'm saying? So then they'd come back out, there'd be 2 or 3 cars, they'd line up and wreck again.
Oh, my God.
It was the craziest race I ever saw, Josh. And when they finally threw the checker flag, the place is cheered. Because like I said, time-wise, we were way behind schedule. And now this race is taking a while. You know what I'm saying? Because they do, Walt kind of has like that unwritten rule. If it's 25 laps, it's 25 laps or 25 minutes or 35 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
So the laps weren't clicking off, and it wasn't that much time going. So I give the track credit, even though it was a 5-car division, they were still giving those guys their time slot to get their race in,
They were trying to support the division as best that they could. And what it shows here, 18 laps was what they finished with.
Right. But the fans just got to the point like, come on, let's get the modifieds out here. This race is over. So they finally threw the checker flag, and the crowd went wild. It was the biggest applause I heard all night.
Wow.
All right, so that moves us on to the 40-lap modified race. I watched the first 20 laps, and then the factory stocks were after that, so I had to go get my car. It's one of the rules I do. I'll watch up to halfway point, and then I go back and get my car and check the tire pressures and stuff like that, and get in the car and get ready to go. The first half of the race is very exciting. I mean, it was those modifieds are super fast. They were running side by side. Stephen Reed started on the pole. Blake Barney was on the outside pole, and they had a pretty good battle for a while.
And Scott, you mentioned earlier they had a full field, 17 cars. I mean, that's a good car count.
Yeah, just to, Larry Spencer didn't join us tonight, just to let him know that, we had 25 factory stocks, and who pretty much said that they were starting them all, but there were a couple of guys had problems in heat races, and we only started 23. So Wall Stadium was willing to start that extra car. They weren't sending one car home. Maybe Evergreen could take a little.
Like take a hint, yeah. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I didn't get to watch the modified race, Tim. If you want to tell us what you saw or heard, or what you know about the race, that would be great.
I thought it was a great race. Like you said, Steven started on the pole, and he swept. I think who got final first? Andrew Krause got final first.
Yes.
And then Steven was able to get him back, and then out of nowhere, that 17 he came in, he passed them both. For the win.
Derek Hopkinson.
The crowd was going crazy. It was a good race. Clean races. Nobody got wrecked or anything. Proved that you can pass on the outside there and not get wrecked. They did a great job.
And that was a question asked, because Alan Brenner is the guy that would spray the tacky stuff down to PBJ or whatever you want to call it. And they were
PBJ. I'm sorry. PBJ caught me off guard, and I couldn't help it.
That's what it's called, right?
I thought it was the there's been a couple ones, but when you said PBJ, I'm thinking peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, everybody's calling it that, but one of the technical names for it is PBJ.
Okay.
They were afraid who's going to do that now, because that was Alan's job. Alan's the one that started doing that. But from what I'm hearing through the grapevine is Tommy that helps Andrew on the cars. Andrew Krause on the car. Tommy's crew guy.
Okay. Yep.
Alan showed him how to do it. Showed him how to mix it and the ingredients and all that stuff, and how to spray it and where to spray it. So I want to thank Alan. He, even though he's not a part of the team over there anymore, that he was gracious enough to show Tommy how to do it. So they did have the sticky stuff down, the traction glue, whatever you want to call it, down on the racetrack. It really doesn't affect the factory stocks at all. So I don't care if it's there or not, but it does make the modified racing better.
Okay. Now, Scott, just two questions for you. First off, why do you think it does more for the modifieds and almost nothing for the factory stocks?
Because they have bigger horsepower motors where we don't.
Okay.
We're not really spinning our tires and stuff like that. And that,
Oh, so it's not for the front end grip. You're thinking more the rear grip.
Coming off the corner or just powering through it. Yeah. It's overall grip. They're just going so much faster where they need more grip, and with the power they have coming off the corner, it helps them get the launch off the corner. I mean, it really shows up on restarts, right, Tim? When we were kids, you never wanted to be on the outside with a modified on a restart. Now it's the preferred spot. They get the launch off that stuff.
Okay. All right. And second question, you talked before with the limited late models and the crowd cheering when that was over. How many people would you guess were there? Because I know there was a lot of talk on Facebook, and nobody wanted to call the track.
Trouble, but if I was a betting man, there was more than 500 people in the grandstand.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know what the actual rule. People were talking about 500.
It looked like a normal crowd, Josh, on 100-degree weather. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
so a bit light, but
actually a little bit better for 100-degree weather. I think it was. I always hope for more. I always hope there's more people than there are. So there was a little less there than I had thought there was going to be there, but under the circumstances, I think it was a fair crowd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to remember, right now, the bread and butter for the track on these nights are the people that come down from wherever from their vacations. What they call the shore crowd or the summer crowd.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. And they're not coming down because everything else is still closed. So I think what was there Saturday was just the diehard Ball Stadium fans that were waiting for the night to open up. You know what I mean?
Okay. So, yeah. No. And Scott, Tim, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people, and I live in a shore town. I'm 2 blocks from the bay, and while we have our restaurants sort of open for outdoor dining, but still closing kind of early, a restaurant I'm not particularly a fan of, but nearby, just north of me, is Caffrey's, and that just shut down their outdoor bar. Their regular is still under construction after a fire, but they had an outdoor bar going. They just shut that down because 2 of their employees tested positive.
And then Captain's Inn or whatever that's called down there. What's that called? Captain something?
Captain's Inn, I believe.
captain's in. I heard that got closed down for the same reason. Their staff came up COVID positive.
Yeah, and I mean they're trying to do the right thing and be safe, but yeah, that's definitely hurting the crowd. Unfortunately, the traffic still sucks heading south.
I was very happy with the crowd under the circumstances. Yeah. Like I said before, I was also happy with the crowd in the pits and the car counts. I think it was a good night. It was a perfect night. You want to hit us with the top 10 of the modifieds, Jeff?
Absolutely. So D-Hop, Derek Hopkinson gets the win. Stephen Reed, Andrew Krause, Blake Barney, Kenny Van Wickle, Jason Treat, Ron Freeze, Joey Merlino, Eddie McCarthy, and Robert French are your top 10.
I tell you what, that's a good run for Kenny Van Winkle. He's off to a good start. A top 5 is a nice solid run.
Now, I believe this was Kyle Sisko's debut in a modified, moving up from the Sportsman.
Modified. He showed up with a brand new, beautiful PSR modified from out of North Carolina.
He finished 13th. Ricky Collins, who we talked about up at Evergreen, was it Evergreen or Mahoning where he didn't make the field?
Both.
Okay. And he ended up 16th. So not the best start for him, but I just wanted to give that a mention because, like you said, Scott, they started everybody.
I believe Kyle Sisko, he was up to like 6 or 7.
Yeah, he was running very well. He must have had a problem there at the end, but he was moving up through the pack. I heard that on the receiver when I was waiting to go out on my race.
He's a good kid.
I tell you what, it's a beautiful race car. We all know Brian Sisko's a wonderful fabricator, and they just build really nice stuff on a budget too. They really build stuff on a budget.
Did they actually make a rule this year that you can't run multiple numbers, like 12, like Jason Hearn's 12?
Yeah, I didn't hear they did, but I know when I had the 09 and 89, when I just had the piece of tape and the O to make it an 8, they didn't like it. They're definitely trying to get rid of it.
If they did make that, if they did crack down that rule, God bless them, because it was getting a little ridiculous.
I know how many 27s were there for one time.
That makes spotting more difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know when I'll get finances to do it again, and I'll probably go back to the Enduro level, just with my budget. But I remember there was going to be an issue if I went back. What was it, a year or two ago, when they had another Josh Merlino running a 57 in the factory stocks, running that Camaro from.
You know where it gets confusing too, Josh, with the receiver.
Yeah, there's no spotting, but
not the receiver, the transponder,
right?
Race monitor.
The guy says, "All right, 09, line up behind the 12." You're like, "Which 12? There's 3 of them."
Yeah. But even when you look at your lap time, sometimes like Elliott has problems with. Sometimes he'll look at his lap time and it's a 12.7, and it's Derek Hopkinson in the modified with a 12. Oh, with the number 17.
Oh yeah.
So if you have 2 of the same numbers in one division, it gets screwed up.
I remember I always had to pay attention when you had with Bowers and Bartone with the 49 and the 49X, so because those cars were similar, and then anytime that the 77X and then whatever it is now, the 71, the old Orange Crush from
I didn't hear that team, but I did see what Sisko did. I thought was pretty cool. He likes running the number 12, and I think because Jason Hearn and Jim Wolf's cars are the number 12. What he did was he put a number 6 on the car, real big, Josh, and then it's real small. He has X2, like times 2,
yeah.
6 times 2. So he's still the number 12. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's clever. I like that.
There was another car that number changed that made me think of that, but I can't remember what it was off the top of my head now.
I know that Glenn Slocum kid had a different number. He was number 1 this year. I don't know what number he was last year, but his number was different too this year.
Well, he finished 11th, so that ties in with a 1.
But before we get to the factory stock race, which of course is the best race of the night, and that's what everybody goes there for. I just want to. There was a couple notable modifieds not there. One being Chris Andretti. Tim, did you hear anything reason why Chris wasn't at the races?
I did, but I'm not going to say on here.
Okay.
Okay.
Another one. None of the Jim Wolf cars were there. Jason Hearn or Mark Rogers. That was a little disappointing. None of them were there. They were missing. Adam LaCicero was missing, but then I seen on Facebook it looked like they just had welcomed another baby into the world. So I don't know why they couldn't schedule that for a non-race weekend.
I love you, Scott.
Well, I don't understand why Adam had to be at the hospital. He could have been at the racetrack.
It was just too hot for him to be there.
He would have chucked down a 30-pack of White Castles and washed it down with a Coke and went racing.
He was sitting in Felix's garage under the air conditioner.
Yeah. So, yeah, there was a few notable modifieds not there. And they still had a respectable field of 17 or 18 cars. I was real surprised not to see Chris Andretta there because he ran so well last year. Another thing was very noticeable is my brother didn't spot for anybody. Tim, you didn't decide to spot, or you had no gigs lined up, or what was going on there? I heard rumors through the week that you were going to spot for Kenny Van Winkle. Is there any truth to that or no?
I was approached not by Kenny, but by one of the crew members, and sometimes that's just crew members trying to be the, whatever, the go-to guy.
Yeah.
And so I never heard back. But on other people's, I have been without a cell phone for 2 weeks.
Yeah. My brother's been calling me from my mom's house phone, which we've had the same number since day one in that house. So it's kind of weird seeing that number come up on my phone. And
I've been Facebook messaging a lot of people. My phone will be back on Thursday. So, yeah, I was approached by a crew member that never panned out. I was going to spot for Doug French's kid, but with my phone being out, I never really bothered to drive over there.
Spot for Tim. The Frenches are great people, and a veteran spotter with a kind of rookie modified driver.
But then again, with me being whatever 24 years into having to be at the racetrack in 100-degree weather, I don't want to have to do that every week now, and unfortunately, but I will be there next week spotting for someone in the modified. So.
Well, actually, you also had the option of Neil Rutt the third. Probably.
I haven't really talked to Neil over the winter. I left it up to him to give me a call, and he never did that I know of. So
that jerk.
I didn't.
Tim, get some more minutes on your Obama phone. This way, we can get you some spotting jobs.
My Facebook page. I just chose not to. I didn't put anything on Facebook that I was looking for any kind of work or jobs or anything. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but we want your input.
I gave you my input on the modified race.
All right, so now we're
spotting this Saturday.
Important race of the night.
Well, actually, wait. Well, before we get to that, Scott, should we do the 4 cylinders?
4 cylinders were last. I was just doing it in order, Josh.
Oh, I just figured we'd save the best for last. That's all.
So factory stocks roll out on the track. We had 25 cars there, 23 start the feature. Like I said, Kevin Flores blew a motor up. And then someone bought Ryan Flores' car, the 15 that Ryan Flores drove last year. It was number 5. For some reason, he left the track and wasn't able to make it for the feature. So we lost 2 cars during the course of the day. And I do know who has that car now, and it's just escaping my mind right now. So we roll down on the track, of course, with the way qualifying works now at the beginning of the year, no handicaps, which I like. You draw for a heat race, and then where you finish in the heat race is where you start in the feature. So Billy Both was on the pole. Billy's car is really fast this year. He's been getting help from the O'Shea family, setting it up, and they're doing a great job. And Brian O'Shea started on the outside pole, and he's basically the fastest car in the factory stock division right now. Mm-hmm. So Brian was able to get the jump on the start on Billy and lead the whole race and win the race. We did not have any yellow flags whatsoever. It went caution free, and Josh, from the driver's seat, it felt like an Enduro to me because we were lapping cars and 3 wide, and there was a couple spins, and they didn't throw the yellow, and it was a very fun race for me, and it was a cool race. It was a lot of fun. I started 7th and was able to finish 4th with the help of no yellows. My car did run pretty good. Brian's definitely a class of the field right now. We got a little work to do to catch up to him, what he's got going on. Billy Both he got his very first career heat race win. He's never even won a heat race, so it was cool to see him get that heat race win, and he got his very best feature finish of 2nd. So it was cool to see Billy have a good night at the track, because sometimes last year he had some very bad nights where he wrecked some race cars pretty bad, and it's good to see him have a fun night at the racetrack.
Now, I think I saw.
Kids are going to be fun to race with all year. Brian and Billy are going to be fun to race with all year, and I'm looking forward to racing with them.
It looks like a really good field, and some familiar names and some new names out there. Now, I saw. I think that Brian made the pass on the outside, right?
Well, he started 2nd, yeah.
Yeah. So he just took it right from the outside pole,
so,
and.
From what I could see in the race car, I'm thinking he got the jump right on the start.
Well, I know he's got a good car and he's a good driver. I mean, I've raced him, yes, in the factory
And they've
stocks,
been
but
working real hard too. Even in the off season, they went down to Florida and raced. They went down to Florida over the winter and raced, got some laps in down there. Then when Wall wasn't open, and they took the journey out to Jennerstown like 3 or 4 times and got some laps on a half mile. And they made it to all the practices at Wall Stadium. They've been working very hard at it the last few years, and investing a lot of time and money into it. I mean, they got 3 or 4 race cars. Tim went out and bought a good trailer, so they have all the spare parts, and they're really putting in the effort, and it's finally paying off from those guys. So I congratulate them for.
yeah, they like you said, they're putting in a ton of effort. And, I mean, they have a lot invested in it. And I mean, Scott, I don't know why you haven't joined us on this yet, but we had for a couple of years, I think about 5 years, we had an unofficial factory stock race in go-karts down at Millville, and Brian would run that with us. And I'll tell you, man,
He's like 335 pounds, Josh, and beat Brian O'Shea, that's 135 pounds. But now I'm down to 235, so maybe I'll join you at this go-kart race.
We should do that. But also, I'm sorry, Tim. I'll finish in a second. Also, from like one of the earlier times we went, and I'll get the printouts of the lap times. Overall, even the fastest carts are down 2 seconds from what they used to be. So actually, it evens out, especially for the heavier guys. Eric Graham blocks like nobody's business.
The Ryan Flores car just came to my mind.
Who was that?
Brian DeSarno.
Okay.
He used to race 4 cylinders, and I think he had a Pro Stock too back in the day that turned into late models.
But like I said, Brian O'Shea actually is. I mean, he is a good driver, and you put a lot of effort behind that car, and it's going to turn out well. Scott,
the factory stocks division looks great. We came out of the gate real quick with 25 cars. Unfortunately, I know of 2 blown motors now. Kevin Flores blew a motor, and I talked to Tim Ajak, and he thinks he broke the crankshaft in his motor.
Oh, yeah, I see him in 2030.
I had to look at it, but he was pretty sure his motor's blown up too. So
over the winter, they said they were going to let you guys run the crate engines. Were there any of those there?
They are allowing the 602 crate engines into the factory stock division, but you have to add 100 pounds. We got to weigh 3,300 pounds. If you show up with a 602 crate, you got to weigh 3,400
pounds. Was anybody there with them?
Out there? There was John Bowers in the 49 and Tony Bartone in the 49X. John Bowers did win his heat race. He did look pretty good. In the feature, he started in front of me and Elliott Wall, but me and Elliott Wall were able to pass him in the feature, and they were pretty even. I'll have to admit that. And John even said he thought the 602 crate motor was going to be a little bit faster than it is. So we'll see how that pans out. That's still something that is to be seen yet. In my mind, I think the 602 crate's better than a built factory stock motor. They just have an aluminum intake. They have Vortec heads and a bigger cam, so they got to be faster. And I don't think 100 pounds is slowing them down.
Okay, what was your question, Tim?
What's the cost of one of those?
They're about $3,800, but by the time you get it delivered to your house and buy the flex plate for it and the carburetor adapter, you're $4,000 into it, $4,200 into it.
I'm sorry, you're heading in the wrong direction with that. I mean, not you, Scott. I think that's the wrong direction to go. I know
I'm a little against it too, but it's too late. The genie's already out of the bottle. So
is that one of those things? One of those deals where you can still have your engine builder put it together, or is it sealed from the factory? Where you
got to get it shipped right to H&H Auto Wreckers, where Rob Heyer works, and he seals it right there. He's got to take it out of the crate and seal it.
Okay. Now, do the same rules apply for like the replacement studs and stuff like that, Scott?
You know what, Josh? Those crate motors even got more advanced from you've been around the racetrack. They actually got a barcode on them now. They got one of those seal bolts with a barcode on it.
Huh.
So you scan it with the barcode scanner, just like the tire barcodes.
Yeah.
And it tells you the history of the motor and everything, and then it's never been opened up. It's pretty cool.
Those modified tour motors, like when you get a new baseball hat, it's got that little prism tape looking thing.
Yeah.
All the modified engines have that all over them.
All right, Josh, it's 9 o'clock already, and we're not even done with Wall City. Let's hit the top 10 of the factory stock division.
Okay, Brian O'Shea with the win. Billy Both, Elliott Wall, Scott Riggleman, John Carpenter, Mike Montano, Tom Ruszkowski, Robert Stack, John Bowers, and Brian Osborne are your top 10. Wow, Neil Rutt the third, actually. Do you know what car he was running?
Yeah, he was running his blue 66, which is the old Jerry Koenig 01.
I'm surprised he didn't do a little bit better.
You know what? I was a little surprised too. And I was actually Neil was in my heat race, and I was kind of excited to race with him, and I never really saw him, so I don't know if he was having a little bit of problem with that car or not.
No, fair enough. And then we mentioned Kevin Flores had the engine. He was they have him listed as 20th, and then Tim.
Speaking of the O'Shea family, Tim did another nice gesture. He let Kevin Flores take out one of Brian's backup cars just so he can make his little bit of money back, make his $40-50 back.
Oh,
you know
just take the green.
Oh, I mean, Tim O'Shea's always good for our division. He also sponsors our division. Kevin blew his motor up in the heat race, and Tim just said, "Listen, I don't want you racing the car. I just want you going out there and do some laps and at least for car count, and this way you can get your entry money back." And stuff
that sucks because Kevin's not made of money,
No, Kevin's just a working man. He's got a very young family at home, so he doesn't have much disposable income for racing, I should say.
Right. Well, I mean, a great car count for the factory stocks. I mean, I know.
But here we go. Kevin Flores is a perfect example for the 602 thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this is the way you want to go racing. I'm not saying no accountant will ever advise you of this, but Tim just said it. Kevin probably doesn't have $3,000 or $4,000 sitting around extra to go buy an engine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But he does have a credit card sitting around. And you can buy a 602 on your credit card.
I
really wanted to make it to the track Wednesday. I mean, Saturday. He can order one on his credit card. It might take him a few years to pay it off, and I'm sure by the time he pays it off, it's not going to be an $8,000 motor, not a $4,000 motor, but it is an option.
Which brings up another point. What happens if you have one of those motors and something happens internally with it that can be fixed, and you have to break that seal? Then what happens?
From what Rob Harder's telling me is when the motor's wore out and blown up, you just buy another one. There's no fixing it, or you sell it to a guy that can fix it, like a Sportsman guy or something, or a hot rod guy. And John Bowers told me a cool story too. The motor that they took out of Tony Bartone's car, the wall legal built factory stock motor,
right?
They put the crate motor in Tony's car. The motor they took out of the 49X, they put into a street rod. They found like a 79 Malibu street car, and they put that motor in there.
That's my backup motor. I'm not putting it in a damn street rod.
Yeah. So during the COVID stuff and the uncertainty of the racetrack, they built a little bit of a street rod for him and Tony, which I thought was a pretty cool story.
Yeah, good for them. But I mean, if I did that, that's straight up a backup motor. That would be sitting somewhere nice and pretty and taken care of because. I mean, it's mechanical.
So what I'm saying is, one good thing about the 602 rule is if you are a budget-minded racer and you're a little foolish with your money to go racing, you can buy one on a credit card. But then again, I don't know. A guy like Tommy Martino or Frank Borwick, they might take credit cards too. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Josh, you got a credit card laying around? You might want to buy a 602 crate motor and get back racing.
I did, but it's maxed out because I have to pay for health insurance. So if I didn't have to pay for health insurance, I would be a little bit more reckless.
Guys, it's getting late here. I think we're going to do the 4 cylinders and then maybe call it a night here.
Okay. All right. So the 4 cylinders, is there anything notable you want to talk about from that race?
Unfortunately, Lonnie Mullen was involved in an accident towards the beginning of the race. I'm assuming, Tim. I don't know. I was loading my stuff up, and
I'd say middle of the race. Well, which seemed to be time-wise.
I didn't get to watch any of the 4-cylinder race. We'll have to rely on my brother on this one a little bit because my race is over. I'm trying to get out of my fire suit. I'm trying to get both race cars loaded up. I got guys come over and talking to me about the race in general. I didn't get back up to watch the race, but I did see Ronnie's car getting towed in on the record, and I did see him leave in an ambulance, I think.
He tried to piss one of the girls on the outside, and I guess they got together, and Ronnie ended up in the fence and broke his hand in the steering wheel.
Which is a common thing in racing. A lot of people that wreck, they get their hand caught in the steering wheel. I'm just going to give everybody a pointer here. Never have your thumbs inside the steering wheel. Hold the steering wheel with your fingers, thumbs outside.
The in-car camera, when the Cup guys wreck, they take their hand right off the wheel.
Or when you're at the point of where it's over with and whatever is going to happen, take your hand off the wheel and let it spin.
You got to understand, too, the Saturday night racer is trying to save his car because he doesn't have to see. You don't want to fix it.
I mean, when I flipped that guy's car up in New Hampshire, I'm on my roof flying through the air, and I'm still braking and gassing and turning the steering wheel trying to save it.
Where the Cup guy's like, oh, well,
Yeah, he's like, oh well, I'll never see this car again.
Yeah, no, it'd be nice to have it disposable like that.
I don't know much about what happened in the 4-cylinder race, but I do know that Ryan Moore got his first victory ever, feature win ever. So that's always a real cool story.
Yep.
If you just want to hit us with the top 10, Josh.
Yeah, so Ryan Moore, if we talked about Alonso Morales, good to see him back. He finished in second. Ian Ashford, Chuck McDonald, Doug Ashford, Cody Critelli, William Cross, Sal Ligori, Sean Volsanic, and Nicole Rosano. And Ronnie Mullen ended up in last, and like Tim said, he did break his hand in that accident. I don't know exactly what was broken. I don't know if it was more of a wrist injury or more in the hand.
Up on Facebook of the X-ray. It looked like his pinky finger was not where it was supposed to be.
Okay. Oh, that's what. Okay. So yeah,
right. Ronnie Mullen will be back in 2 weeks. He'll be all right.
He was at the quarter midget track on Sunday flagging.
No, he's tough. He'll be back at it. But he'd been in the hospital for a few days prior to this whole.
I guarantee if that hand goes into a cast, he's going to ask it to be where he can get it around the steering wheel.
Oh yeah, no, Ronnie, absolutely. He's going to find a way to keep going.
And on a side note, in that wreck, he was driving. He was in the. Tim, he has that same thing the Bluets get when your intestines are thin.
Yeah. Eating too much Taco Bell.
He was in the hospital for 7 days with that. It's
chickenitis or something.
Yeah, exactly. He just got out of the hospital, so he didn't have time to get his 4-cylinder race ready. So Paul Hartwig let him use one of Little Paulie's cars, one of the fluorescent orange number 73s.
Yeah, that's when I think Paul had it up for sale like 2 days before that.
Yeah, Paul had it up for sale for $5,000.
I don't know how bad it was.
Prelude better than that car, so they were looking to sell that again, another Prelude, but they let Ronnie drive it, and unfortunately got tore up a little bit.
Well, I will say Hartwig has helped out more people than you can ever imagine, and as much as people like to hate on him, I know more people that have been helped by him. Yeah, he's who he is. He's a little reckless. He's out there and all that, but he's helped out a ton of people, and he even talked to Ronnie, and I know that him and Ronnie have had issues in the past, and he lent him that car, and they're going to get it fixed, and he'll probably do it again. And just kudos to Hartwig for putting another car out there and helping somebody, and it's just good to see, and they're all old factory stock guys. In my mind,
they've been friends forever. The family. I mean, Herschel, Paul's father, used to help Ronnie when Ronnie raced. He was part of Ronnie's pit crew. So yeah, I mean, family ties, man. Friends last forever in racing. Even when they get in arguments and fight, within a few weeks it's over and you're back being friends. I mean, me and Ronnie used to argue all the time. Me and Ronnie grew up together. We used to play in the sandbox together. I know Ronnie so long, and we're still friends today. We've been through some battles in racing, but it happens. We're still good friends today, and I wish him well. I really do. He's self-employed like me. He does garage doors for a living, so he kind of needs both hands to do his job. So I hope I'm sure it's going to be a financial impact on him. But he's a survivor. He's one of the toughest guys I know, so I'm sure he'll be fine in the end. But just keep Ronnie and his family in his thoughts, because he does have a racing injury. All right, we're going to kind of conclude tonight. We did want to get to Bridgeport and New Egypt, but we did go an hour and a half, 2 hours on Wall Stadium, which is cool because Wall Stadium we've been missing. We've been doing Bridgeport and New Egypt. But so Josh doesn't get beat up by the Allen family. I just want to say that Lee Allen finished second in the outlaw street stock race down at Bridgeport. He even came back through the back of the pack. He had a flat tire, and let me tell you, for him to get in the pits and get it changed and get back out there, either his crew did it really fast or they gave him a few laps, because that's the only bad part about Bridgeport. It's about a 2-mile ride from the track to your pit area. Ooh. And even your crew guys, if they're in the main grandstands, they got to run all the way to your pit. So it really give them credit for getting that car back out on the track. Lee came from dead last and made it all the way back up to second. That's pretty impressive down there because the competition is tough.
That was the Sunbelt Rentals street stocks at Bridgeport on the beautiful new track that we've talked about. They had 13 cars.
They're calling it, Josh, the Kingdom of Speed.
Kingdom of Speed. Oh, wow. That's an appropriate name. But 13 cars for that division. Because I know for a long time, especially with that Outlaw Enduro series, they were trying to get more cars. Like, come on down to Bridgeport. Like, just come, bring your cars.
I thought it was a little short, because when I was down there last week, they had more than 13. But like I told you before, the track eats race cars. That's the only bad thing about it.
Yeah.
So, you remember Flemington, like the late model division, had like 30 cars, and by
2 weeks
mid-season,
later.
they were down to like 8, and finally the track said, listen, guys, we're going to give you a month off, rebuild, and come back with some cars.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately starting to happen a little bit at Bridgeport because even the modifieds, Josh, I don't know if you have it right in front of you right now,
I
but
do.
They only had about 13 or 14 cars too, and they're down.
Billy Parks win again?
Yeah, he was the first repeat winner on the new track at Bridgeport.
Yes, yes. There were 12 cars. There was one did not start for the modifieds.
And another thing too that hurts car count there. I can't blame it on all destruction down there. When I was down there last week, there was 27 modifieds there, but you got to remember New Egypt didn't race modifieds that night, so they had some.
People had to find a place to go. Yeah,
stuff like that down there racing. So you had 2 dirt modified features at 2 different tracks on the same day. And same with the street stocks. The last time I was down there, there was some New Egypt street stocks down there because the street stocks weren't racing New Egypt. So they kind of split their field up. You know what I'm saying, between 2 racetracks. So that's another thing that hurt the car counts.
Okay. Makes sense.
Well, I just wanted to get Lee Allen's thing in there because he pretty much told me if Josh doesn't do Bridgeport results, he's going to make a little trip down to the studios. And
Lee Allen scares the crap out of me. He is a big dude. Dude, you shake hands with him, it's like shaking hands with a brick.
He really is a gentle giant. He's one of the nicest guys.
His whole family is
you know what's weird about their family? I've never seen them fight anybody else, but I've seen them fight each other. They fight. Even his brothers fight more than any brothers I've ever seen in my life.
And they all race. I just saw.
And no one breaks them up. They're too big to break up. The brothers.
They're just like us. They'll sit and talk about racing for hours.
They love racing.
Yeah.
I think, Tim, that's the only family that loves racing more than the Riggleman family. They really love racing.
Honestly, it brings me back to one memory I have of trying to hold Paul Hartwig back from. I'm trying to remember who he was arguing with, but they were getting ready to fight, and me trying to hold back freaking Hartwig was. I mean, honestly, it's about as bad as me trying to hold Lee Allen back from somebody. It ain't gonna work. I'm just gonna grab on and get dragged along.
All right, guys. So this was pretty much a Wall Stadium show. Before we go, we always do what have we learned. I'll start off what I've learned. I learned Tim's Obama phone ran out of minutes, and he should have.
I have a Verizon phone. My charger broke, and I couldn't. I'm not going to. I called Verizon. You have to call. This is going to piss me off now.
Tim, they sell chargers in every freaking.
No, go to Wawa. There's a charger.
Now, my phone won't. Can I finish? My phone won't charge off one of them hunks of shit chargers that you guys buy. It has to be this 35-hour charger, right? For whatever reason. And so I called Verizon. He said, you have to go to the parking lot and call them to get into the store. I'm like, how can I call you from the parking lot if my phone don't work? So I ended up ordering one off of Amazon, and it got lost in the mail somewhere. I'm just without a phone charger right now. Nothing's wrong. I just don't have a phone charger.
All right, Josh, what have you learned? I'm not buying it, by the way.
All right, well, what did Tim learn? Let's go over that first.
I learned that Scott's an asshole. That's what I learned.
My phone works. My phone works. It's fully charged.
One thing that I didn't mention that I kind of learned at Wall Stadium, not so much on this show, that every year, at the beginning of the year, they do the thing where people die, and they.
Yeah, there was a long list this year.
We lost a lot of people this year.
It was a tough winter.
So all kidding aside, just our racing family took a brutal hit this year. So just keep that in mind that life's not guaranteed, man.
Yeah, 2020 sucked in a tremendous way. That's for sure. Anything else, Tim?
They did mention that at the drivers' meeting as well, and I was surprised that some of the names on the list of people we lost over the winter was a pretty long list.
No, that's about it. I was glad to see Wall Stadium surviving. Like the crowd was as good as it was going to be, and it seems like the Emily's ready to go, and so far so good. We'll see how it goes from there.
Okay. All right. So
I will be there spotting this Saturday. Thank you.
Good. Well, hopefully I can make it out and I can bother you or harass you or something.
Tim, one real quick question I wanted to ask you, and I forgot during the podcast. As a Sunday Series father and car owner, how do you feel about the first 2 races getting canceled due to heat? are you happy they got canceled due to heat, or would you like to tough it out and race?
As a very fat father, I am very glad that they canceled.
I agree too. I honestly don't like that the
actually,
quarter midgets race in this heat, and I'm kind of glad that Alan Brenner is willing to cancel during the heat.
And you also have to remember, we're talking about kids here. We're not talking about adults.
Kids.
You know, me and Lisa gave Bailey and Alexis it's going to be hot. Do you want to go race? If you guys want to go, we will go. But you got to remember, too, my kids are very fair-skinned.
Yeah.
You know, they're redheads. They get sunburnt with sunblock on, you know. So right. I'm very thankful that they canceled. And like
are you all ready to go with your racing operation if they are to race?
Yeah, thanks to Jamie Wolf and Charlie Spencer, our go-karts are ready to go.
All right, Josh, what have you learned?
All right, today I learned, if you listen to Scott, that you got to bang and you got to go for half a hole. And I also learned that Tim has a Cinderella phone that only takes a special charger. I'm sorry. I didn't have that much.
Really upsets me about all this, Josh. I grew up with my brother. He's a wizard when it comes to electronics. Like, he can install radios in cars, and CBs in the house, and he can hook up any cable box. He can splice free channels, but he can't charge his phone. I don't get it, man.
I was going to go down it's funny you say that, because I was going to go down the junkyard and get a cigarette lighter out of a junk car and hook it to a battery so I could charge my phone.
I know. Can't you just go like the van in the driveway and charge it?
It's too hot. I'm not sitting out there.
Does the air conditioning work?
All right, Josh, let's leave it alone. He's getting mad. But there's more to this story. There's more to this story. Maybe on your, what's that, Chaos Corner, or what's that show you guys did?
My God, the Conspiracy Corner. Actually, now, it's funny that you mentioned the batteries, though, because it may be a little bit out of the camera frame, but I have the inverter out of my old truck mounted to my wall, and I'm working on wiring in a couple batteries, so that way...
That's the brother I know. I don't know the brother says, my phone's not charging, I got to wait a week to get a phone.
I'm not... I don't know. I'm a hermit now.
Literally rub two sticks together and be able to charge his phone. That's the brother I know.
No, Richard Children's not going to call me tomorrow to spot for anybody.
Seems like he's enjoying his time without a phone, Josh.
I'm like covert happy. I love this covert.
By the way, everybody, the show's over. This is this bonus material we got going on.
Covert. I love covert time. Nobody bothers me. Nobody comes over. I float around in John Blue's pool all day long. That's what I do.
All right. Anyway, so they'll be back next week. Is everybody still on the card?
Before we leave, I did listen to our podcast last weekend, and I did listen to the recommendations and reviews about the Dale Jr. show. And I did watch all the rest of the episodes. So I am caught up to my brother on the episodes. I watched every single one of them, and they're all great. I mean, they're definitely cool. I really hope they pick up a second season for that, because they're very enjoyable. Unlike this show, they're the right amount of time. They're only like 25 minutes long, so that doesn't take your whole day up like this show does.
Did I list?
If you haven't watched them yet, it's on peacocktv.com.
Oh, that's
it's an app
right.
on your phone. It doesn't cost anything. You just got to sign up for your...
Which I do have on my phone. I have that on my phone.
That's not charged.
Which is dead. Which is dead. By the time Tim charges his phone up, there might be season 2 of the Lost Speedways and Dale Jr.'s Lost Speedways. So.
Scott, did I give my recommendation last week?
No, you didn't. You can do it now.
There's a show on Netflix called Dark.
Okay.
It was originally it's a German show, so it's dubbed in English. So it's kind of like the old Godzilla movies where the lips don't line up with the words, but it's very much, if you like Stranger Things, X-Files, or Back to the Future, it kind of ties in with all that thing. There's like a time travel thing going on. We just finished up season 2, I think. That's my recommendation. And there's one guy, there's like a police officer of some capacity, works in an office there, and like he has like a patch over one eye, but otherwise he looks like Dale Jr. So every time he comes up, I'm like, yeah, well, they put down oil in turn 1 there, and I don't know. But yeah, that's my recommendation. Dark on Netflix.
Don't get too far from it. How funny was Gary Ballou on that show, Scott?
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he was real good. Another thing I want to say about Wall Stadium, I think Gary Larson and Earl Krause really stepped up their announcing game.
They did an excellent job Saturday.
Yeah, they really picked up the excitement level of their announcing at the racetrack. I think Gary and Earl did an awesome
And it was
job.
only the two of them, so there wasn't like five guys up there stepping on each other. You know what I mean?
I will say that I was at my in-laws working on. I was redoing a bathroom floor, like the subfloor, because it was rotted and everything. So I didn't get to go to the track Saturday night. But my father-in-law was watching TV, and I'm going to assume that he was watching News 12 because he's like, "Oh yeah, they just had Wall Stadium on the TV."
They
like,
actually ran it for 2 days. Yeah.
Okay, and he's like,
Yep.
he was like, "Yeah, one of the announcers." I was like, "Which one?" He's like, "Kraus." I was like, "Oh, Earl Kraus." Yeah, okay, great. So apparently I'm going to assume that was probably the work of Little Jim, putting that out there, and getting that on the news and
Yeah,
whatnot. So
they ran the clip for 2 days in a row, so Wall Stadium did get some local
local airtime.
exposure.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
on Facebook. I seen the News 12 on Facebook too. They had an article as well.
good. Good. I mean, the track can use everything it can get. I'm actually going to work on. I'm going to talk to Diane and I guess Emily because I did get prior approval for this, but it's been quite a while. I wanted to do some drone footage of the track, and I know we're near an airport, but if I'm out of the I mean, there's rules and everything where I can do it legally, and I'll obviously stay fairly low. But if I can get some shots of the track in addition to some other video, and I would love to do drone footage of a factory stock race because
That'd be awesome.
it would be absolutely incredible. And I'd like to do a video with that. And
You know what's funny? I've never seen a drone at Wall Stadium, but these other tracks I race at, such as Big Diamond and Grandview and Bridgeport and Bethel,
Mhm.
there have been drones there, and I've noticed myself during a race being like, "What the hell is that thing?"
Yeah,
looking
well,
at it.
if I can turn this into maybe even just like a little advertisement that they could, like a little YouTube video or something like that, that they could share from their Facebook page or put on their website or something like that. I don't want any money for it or anything like that. I just, if I can help the track, that's all I care about is get more people to the track, show how cool it is. And I mean, it's certainly unique. And if we can help them, just like we're doing this episode, talking about how their opening on night went this year. So that's all. I just want to bring that up.
Scott, did you
Cool.
hear about the food specials? I didn't hear any food specials announced.
You know what? I really want to walk over and see what was going on with the photo booth at Wall Stadium with JJ passing, but to tell you the truth, it was so hot, and I was doing stuff on my car. Other than walking over to the men's room over there, I never went over there. I never tried to go in the grandstands, but you were allowed to go back and forth through the pits into the grandstands.
Good.
I never even thought about the concession stands or the photo booth once I got in the pits and got busy working on my stuff. You know?
All I can think about is food. That's probably why I weigh so much now.
Gosh, it was so hot. I don't even think you would have eaten over.
Nah, I didn't even eat anything.
It was brutal.
You would have gone for the Gatorade. That's about it.
A couple people have dogs in the pits, and I kind of wondered if it was too hot to even have like dogs on the pavement. You know what I'm saying? Like their feet.
Yeah.
It was that. Gosh, I laid on the ground to put my transponder on my car, and I'm like, oh my god, I had to get up and find like a mat or something to lay on. It was that hot.
There was some
I
kind of
believe it.
grandstands with a dog.
What's that, Tim?
There was a kind of grandstands with a dog.
Was there?
Yeah.
I will say,
I actually seen Emily walking around with a dog for a little while too. I don't know whose dog that was.
no,
I
but
did see that.
I love dogs and I love racing, but I don't think I would ever bring a dog to a racetrack. Between all the noise and the heat and everything, I don't know. I just don't see.
we brought ours to the cruise night years ago, back when they had the car cruise on like Friday night.
Out there with the motors screaming, you know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm sure people know their own dog better than I do. But when I did see it, I'm like, man, that pavement's hot for those dogs to be walking around with no shoes on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sure it was absolutely blistering. But yeah, I would have sat in the truck with the AC for quite a while. Actually, I did that while camping probably a few weeks ago. There was one point I was like, nope, this sucks. Well, also, she had to go somewhere and we had the dog with us, so I just sat with the dog in the truck with the AC on for like 15 minutes just to get a break from it all. And then thank God a thunderstorm came through and cooled things off a little bit.
All right, guys, that wraps up episode 179 of the RPM podcast. Thanks for joining us, and we'll go to Wall.
Yeah, go to Wall. They'll be back next week, and hopefully, I think the temperature's supposed to go down a little bit. So let's cross our fingers for that, and hopefully I'll be there to cheer on Scott and whoever Tim's spotting for.
Go to Wall.
Go to Wall.
Good night, everybody.